Hello, student. I'm Dr. Shafali Jain, Assistant Professor at Thankar Mavi University. Student, in this video, we discuss about the Keynes liquidity preference theory. Eminent economics of 20th century, Lord Keynes has propounded a monetary theory of interest. In his famous book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, Keynes, who is the considered of the father, and he gave a great contribution to the macroeconomics. So, in his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, there were two more theories to determine rate of interest were propounded, which were classical theory by J.S. Mill, Professor Marshall, Walras and Pico, and New Liberal Theory by Robertson and V. Olin. But among all such theories, Keynes' theory is the most reliable and trustworthy. Keynes' theory of interest, also known as liquidity preference theory of interest. And in this video, we discuss about this theory. What is interest? Meaning the money that you pay for borrowing money from a bank, etc., or the money that you earn when you keep money in a bank, etc. According to Keynes, interest is the reward for parting with liquidity for a specific period. Interest of the two types, gross interest and net interest. It can be easily understood by the equation below. Gross interest is equal to net interest plus reward of risk plus reward of management plus reward of inconvenient, and rate of interest, the meaning of so according this theory, interest is the price of the service of money. Interest is a monetary phenomenon because it is determined by the demand for and supply of money. Supply of money depends upon money in circulations and bank deposit in our country. Demand for money is made in order of to hold in it in a liquid form. So Keynes, in the words of Keynes, interest is the reward for parting with liquidity for a specific time. And the rate of interest is that premium which is to be offered to include the people of hold back in some form other that the hoarded money. According to this theory, interest is determined by demand for and supply of money. It is the equilibrium point between demand and supply. Demand for money has two functions, medium of exchange and store value. So, according to Keynes, rate of interest, I have also explained you, the proportion of a loan that is charged as interest to the borrower, typically expressed as an annual percentage of the loan outstanding. According to the Keynes, the rate of interest is the premium which to be offered to include the people to hold back in same form than the hoarded money. As far we can understand the meaning of liquidity by his definitions. It means cash or preference of cash. So, let's define the rate of interest as the reward for parting with liquidity for a specified time. According to him, the rate of interest is determined by the demand for and the supply of money. So, determination of interest or money. Sorry, where is the two factors on which the rate of interest depend are the demand of money and supply of money. The rate of interest is Keynesian theory is determined by the demand for money and supply of money. Create equilibrium condition. Demand for money. Demand for money is not to be confused with the demand for a commodity that people consume. But since money is not consumed, the demand for money is a demand to hold an asset. The demand, so liquidity preference means the desire of the public hold to cash. According to Keynes, there are three motives: transaction motives, precautionary motives, and speculative motives. Transaction motives. Transaction demand for money. Money which is needed for day to day transaction. Transaction demand for money or need-based money, which directly depend on the level of income of an individual and businessman. If the level of income is increased, the motives of transaction will also increase. As you know, people will higher income, keep more liquidity money at hand to meet their need-based transactions. In other words, transaction demand for money is an increasing function of money income. Okay? TDM यानी TDM stand for T transaction, D demand, M for money, and F function by stand for money income. Here you can see relationship between transaction demand and rate of interest can be represented here. um, Income spending and spending. So why the graph show? It can be seen that the rate of interest is independent, okay, to demand for transaction because income comes just one in a month, but money needed for transaction required whole month and transportation. The person won't get any interest on it. So So, the transaction motives relates to the demand for money or the need of cash for the current transaction of individual and business exchanges. Individual hold cash in order to bridge the gap between the receipt of income and expenditure. This is called the income motive. The businessmen also need to hold ready cash in order to meet their current needs like payment, uh, raw materials, transport, wages, etc. This is called the business motive. So, income, so transition motive has a direct relationship with income. When level of income increases, transition motive also increases. Now, money needed for emergency purposes need precautionary motives. Future is uncertain. That is why people hold cash balances to meet unforeseen contingencies like sickness, death, accidents, dangers of employment, etc. It is also depends on the level of money incomes, money income of an individual, but irrespective at rate of interest. This kind of demand for money is also an increasing function of money income. The relationship between precautionary demand for money, PDM, and volume of income is normally is a direct ones. So precautionary motives for holding money refers to the desire to hold cash balance for unforeseen conditions. Keynes hold that transactions and precautionary motives are relatively interest inelastic but are highly income elastic. The amount of money held under these two motives M1. He also these two motives is M1. M1 is a function L1 of the level of money y. So he is expressed m1 m1 को उन्होंने l1 कहा है. L1 is a function of money, well, sorry, income. So he says, so Keynes says the precautionary motive for holding money refers to the desire to hold cash balance for uncertain conditions, just like illness, accidents, unemployment, and other conditions. So the businessmen also keep cash in reserve to tide over unfavorable condition or to gain from unexpected deals. Keynes also says that both motives, which are I have also discussion, transaction and precautionary motives. In this motives is mostly depend on the income level and in this motives, interest rate is inelastic, but income is elastic. So, so he also takes his these two motives. M1 is a function L1 यानी and a function of the level of income by. So M1 को इन्होंने L1 के रूप में शो किया है. Now he also discussed about the speculative demand for money. Money left after completions of demand for transactions and precautionary motives and used for investment or risk. This shorts of demand for money is really Keynes' contribution. The speculative motives refers to the desire to hold one's asset in liquid form to take advantages of market movement regarding the uncertainty and expectation of future changes in the rate of interest. The cash held under this motive is used to make speculative gains by dealing in bonds and securities whose prices and rate of interest fluctuate inversely. So the speculative motives relates to the desire to hold one resources in liquid form to take advantage of future changes in the rate of interest or bond prices. Bond prices are the uh, rate of interest are inversely related to each other. If bond prices are expected to rise, the rate of interest is expected to fall. People will buy goods bonds to sell when the price later actually rises. If, however, bonds prices are expected to fall, the rate of interest is expected to rise, and people will sell bonds to avoid losses. According to Keynes, you can see in this diagram also, and speculative demand for money STM varies inversely with the rate of interest. Thus, STM speculative demand for money is the function of R यानी rate of interest. According to Keynes, the higher the rate of interest, the lower the speculative demand for money. And the lower the rate of interest, the higher the speculative demand for money. So Keynes explained speculative demand for the money as he also says M2. He also says this the speculative demand of money, I don't written here, M2. M2 is equal to, he also considered L2. L2, speculative demand for money. And R is the rate of interest. So geometrically, it is smooth curve which slope down from left to right. Here you see relationship between speculative demand and rate of interest can be represented. It is a smooth curve which slopes down from left to right here. Now it shows it's uh, shows the highest rate of interest, the lower speculative demand for money, and the lower rate of interest, the highest speculative demand for money. And it is also show the liquidity trap. Liquidity trap, it means if the total liquidity money is denoting liquidity trap, that the demand for money is never down from here. and it is a liquidity trap. So if the total liquidity liquid money is here, total liquidity money is here M, and the transaction plus precautionary motives by M1. I have also discussed you that transaction and speculative motive are shown the geometric symbol M1 and speculative motives by M2. So M is equal to M1 plus M2. We can say, and I also discuss you M1 is equal to L1. L1 M1 is equal to L1 is y, the function of y, and M2 is equal to L2. L2 is a function of rate of interest. The total liquidity preference function is expressed as M is equal to L y r. You can see. So total demand for money, the total demand for money DM. Here is the sum of all three types of money. Here we also take it DM and M. M is equal to TDM, any transaction demand for money plus precautionary demand for money plus speculative demand for money. The demand for money, and you can see also it M. Demand money, you can see M, and TDM and TDM can write down L1, and it is also seen many others notes, and STM also written L2. The demand for money has a negative slope because of the inverse relationship between the speculative demand for money and the rate of interest. You can see in this slope. Okay. However, the negative sloping liquidity preference curve become perfectly elastic as the low rate of interest. Here it is a elastic because according to Keynes there is a flow. Interest will blow, which is the rate of interest cannot fall. This minimum rate of interest indicate absolute liquidity preference of the people because this is it becomes um, in this perfectly elastic, and it will demand for money will not speculative demand for money here become perfectly elastic. So here the graphical representation of the total demand for money hits. I also say this is not affected with the rate of interest, but here the rate of interest is inelastic while it is depend on the price level of income. Yet, and the total liquidity preference is equal total demand for money M1. I have also say plus M2. Here M1 and here M2. M2, M1 is transaction and precautionary demand for money. The curve LP, which shows the total demand for money in horizontal summations of quantity of money demanded, and here it is the horizontal and it will show the money demanded M1 and M2 with the same rate of interest measure of y-axis. Here y-axis, thus in the amount of money balance had OQ. OQ is the same OA and has no relationship to interest rate, and OQ and but the amount OR show OA plus OB, similarly OS is equal to OA plus OC. Here he takes OA, AA and OB here, so and OC here he says. Okay. Thus, liquidity preference is higher interest rate increase with a fall in the rate of interest. In the word demand for money and the rate of interest are negatively related, inverse relative. Here you see. So, hope you well understood that demand for money and rate of interest inversely interest are negatively related. Hope you have well understood that demand for money is three motives: transaction motives, precautionary motive and speculative motives. And now we discuss about the total supply of money. The quantity of money supply can be determined by the monetary authority who has taken this conduct. These authorities are usually the government agencies like in India, RBI takes control to supply of money and determine the flow of cash or liquidity in economy. The supply of money is neither the function of income nor rate of interest, as the authority do not get any interest in the minting currency. So therefore, you can say in the simple word, the supply of money refers to the total quantity of money in the country. So the supply of money is a function of the rate of interest to a certain degree. Yet it is considered to be fixed by the monetary authorities. Hence, the supply curve of money is taken as a perfectly inelastic, as you see here, perfectly inelastic, representing by a vertical straight line. Uh, the supply of money represent as a vertical line at the quantity of money that the Fed decide to put out into the public rinse. When the Fed increases money supply, this line shift to the rightward. Here, the rightward. Similarly, when the Fed decreases the money supply, the line shift to the leftward. So, like uh, like the price of any product, that rate of interest is determined at the level demand money equal to the supply of money. So where here we see demand and supply equalization. For determination rate of interest as per a theory suggested by Keynes. In this diagram you can see here disequilibrium, equilibrium point. Here demand and supply is supply है and it's a demand curve. Equilibrium. OM is the total amount of money supplied by the central bank. At point E, demand for money become equal to supply of money. Thus, the equilibrium interest rate is determined. Here, it's a supply curve, okay, and it's a demand curve. In such a situation, supply of money will exceed the demand for money. People will purchase more securities. Consequently, its price will rise and interest rate will fall until the demand for money becomes equal to the supply of money. On the other hand, if the rate of here you see if rate of interest increase, the demand for money will decrease, and when rate of interest rate decrease, the demand for money will increase. So, if the rate of interest become less, the demand for money will exceed and supply of money, people will sell their securities. So, you can see in the diagram, there is a disequilibrium, equilibrium point, it is a equilibrium point. So, like the price of any product, the rate of interest is determined at a level where the demand for money equal the supply of money. In the following figure, you also see the vertical line SS represent the supply of money, and the L the total, and LC the total demand for money curve. Both the curve intersect at each other here, where you see it equilibrium, where equilibrium rate is OT is established. So, if there is any deviation from this equilibrium position, an adjustment will take place through the rate of interest, and equilibrium will be also re-established at the point of T1. Uh, the supply of money OS is greater than the demand for money. Here, consequently, the rate of interest will decline from and it will from T, and after this rate after the reaching the rate of interest OT, Similarly, at OT2 level of interest rate, the demand for money OM2 is greater than the supply of money OS. As a result, the rate of interest here OT2 will start to rising and it reaches their equilibrium point T. So it may be noted that if the supply of money is increased by the monetary authorities, but the liquidity preference curve L remains the liquidity preference curve L remains the same and remains the same, the rate of interest will fall if the demand for money increases and liquidity preference curve shift upward. And given the supply of money, the rate of interest will rise. So, hope is trying to well understood the equilibrium between demand and supply. Now, we also even Keynes liquidity preference theory is not free from criticism. Firstly, like the classicals and new classical theories, Keynes theories is an indeterminate, uh, indeterminate ones. Keynes charged the classical theory on the ground that is assume the level of employment fixed. Secondly, Keynes committed an error in rejecting real factors as a determinant of interest rate determinations. And thirdly, Keynes theory gives a choice between holding risk bonds and riskless cash. An individual hold either bonds or cash and never both. In the real world, it is an uncertainty or risk that induce an individual to hold both. This gap is Keynes theory has been filled up by James Tommy. In fact, today people make choices between varieties of asset. So, as you see here, it has been pointed out that the rate of interest is not purely a monetary phenomenon. Real forces like productivity of capital and thirds and the saving by the people also play an important role in the determination of the rate of interest. Not only rate of interest. Um, so liquidity preference is not only factor governing the rate of interest. There are several other factors uh, which influences the rate of interest by affecting demand for and the supply of money. The liquidity preference theory does not explain the existence of the different rate of interest prevailing in the market at the same time. And also Keynes ignores saving or waiting as a means of sources in vestibular fund to part with liquidity without there being any saving is meaningless. Keynes theory only explains interest in the short run. It gives not clue to the rate of interest in the long run. Keynes theory of interest, like the classical and loanable funds theories, is determinant. We can't know how much money will be available for the speculative demand for money useless unless we know how much the transaction demand for money is. So if uh, so in this video we discuss the liquidity preference theory describe the supply and demand for money as measured through liquidity. John Maynard Keynes mentioned the concept in his book 1936, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. Keynes stressed the connection between interest rate and the supply and demand for money. The more quickly as an asset can be converted into currency, the more liquid it can becomes in the real world terms. So, liquidity preference theory says that interest rate adjusts to balance the desire to hold cash against less liquid assets. The more people prefer liquidity, the higher interest rate must rise to make them willing to hold bonds. And the theory views interest rates as a payment for parting with liquidity. Liquidity preference theory aims to explain how interest rates are determined. The key and also people naturally prefers holding asset in liquid form so they can be quickly converted into cash at little cost. Interest rate provide an incentive for the people to overcome their liquidity preference and hold less liquid asset like bond. According to the theory, bonds provide interest income, but the less liquid than cash because they can't immediately be converted to money. The more liquidity a bond, the more incentive people will need in terms of its interest rate. The theory holds that interest rate are determined by the supply and the demand for money. For this reason, people want to hold more cash and decreasing the money supply, reducing bonds prices. When liquidity preferences is high, interest rates have to rise as an incentive for giving up this liquidity to match this preference. A lower liquidity preference conversely means that people are willing to hold more bond and increasing the money supply and lowering interest rate. So I think you well understood what is the liquidity preference theory. Now, thank you very much.